As long as you are inside of a pattern of this world, created by a man led by Satan, then you won't be able to know what God's will is, what God's plan is. You won't know why He does what He does. Good morning, Trinity family members. I thank you for being part of my family. Welcome to this morning's online sermon. I want to thank those of you that keep us in prayer, those of you that contribute to this part of the ministry of God's work. I can't explain to you in words the impact you make in our lives. And my prayer is always for you and your family. Don't ever take those prayers for granted, because God hears us as we call upon His name on behalf of whoever we pray for. And when we give God our supplications, we believe in our hearts that God listens. Just a few housekeeping matters. Our first thing is the fasting, and our 21 days of fasting starts tomorrow. I already explained to you that you may choose the manner in which you want to fast, whether it's vegetables, dry fast, wet fast, half a day fast, whatever it is you want to do. The main goal is to suppress the desires, your weaknesses, let's put it that way. Whatever weaknesses you have, you need to identify them and say, during these 21 days, I am going to work on these weaknesses. Anger is my weakness, I'm going to work on that. Lust is my weakness, I'm going to work on that. Greed is my weakness. So whatever it is, you got to dominate it during this 21 days. And as I shared with you previously, 21 days of doing anything alters your DNA and changes your character. The other thing, we were supposed to meet here at our church venue on the 26th of January, because we were planning to have monthly service at the church, but due to the spread of another disease that's out, I gave you some details last week. We just want to be cautious, to protect. And as I said, when we look at the benefits of having service versus the cons of what it could bring to us, there is no comparison. So I might as well just remain closed so that we can be safe, especially those that are vulnerable. So trust us, we have your best interest at heart, as long as also with our best interests as well. Now, there's fires that are taking place. Earlier on in sermons in 2020 and 2021, I did mention to you about we're going to see these fires escalate. And whatever's happening now is not surprising. But, if the Lord leads me, I'm going to share with you more about these things in the coming weeks. But right now, I'm not led to share anything in particular. I want to concentrate on the spiritual things that affect us and how we can reconstruct our lives. And in God's eyes, we can be favorable. So let us concentrate on that. Now, last week we journeyed through the life of a young woman called Tekla, and she was a follower of Paul. And we saw how people in the community, you see, there was a custom in that community that young woman aged between 13 and 15 was the ideal age for marriage. That was the custom, that was their pattern. And so When Thekla heard Paul's words, she refused to get married to a person that she was already engaged to. So she was ostracized. In fact, her mother wanted to put her to death because she was breaking custom. She was going against the custom and the pattern of the day. And so we also see that because of what Paul went through, because he was beaten and thrown out of the city for the sake of telling Thekla what might be best for her is not to be married. So because of the indirect influence that this community had on Paul, he distanced himself from Thekla in a way. Now, as I want you to feel this week, to understand that it takes one person with a strong conviction to create a pattern of behavior. For example, this idea of getting married at the age of 13 to 15, it didn't just come about. It had to start with a thought that was generated in the mind of one man. And so, when this one man spoke these thoughts out, other men listened to these thoughts and said, hey, this is a good idea. And so, whatever was in his mind, the others started to follow. And so, a trend began, a pattern began, a custom began. Now, most customs are formed in this way, where one person starts it and everybody else follows. Now, because we are a vortex of energy, these thoughts that form customs and patterns of behavior, it is generated through vibrational energy. So whether it's a good idea, will be a positive vibration, or bad idea, which is negative vibration. But whatever it is, it's always a vibration. And the person listening to you, if they are on the same frequency level as you, your vibrational thinking, then they will easily receive what you're giving them. It's similar to like when I talk to you. Some of you can resonate with me. In other words, we are on the same wavelength. We vibrate at the same energy. That's why when I speak to you, it's not difficult for you to absorb what I'm saying, to understand it, and then to use that to better yourself. It works with negative people as well. It all has to do with vibrations. Now, just as a reminder, we saw this pattern of how one thing can influence the behavior of somebody else, even if they were not. You saw that pendulum that we showed, those several pendulums. The first pendulum was shaken first, then the second one, then the third, fourth, fifth, and so on. But at the end, they all were in harmony with the first one that started to move. Now, that tells you that whoever generates an idea, if people are on the same vibrational level, they will eventually flow in the same way. Let's just take a quick look at this video as a reminder. A few weeks ago, I taught you about the brain. We have a left brain and we have a right brain. The left brain is the conscious brain. The brain that is generally awake in the day, where you are conscious of your surroundings. The right brain is where your subconscious lives. It operates in the subconscious. Generally, the right brain is operative only when the left brain goes to sleep or is involved in some kind of routine. Then the right brain takes a little bit of a control. That's why that subconscious mind at night, it goes roaming and has adventures, and we call that dreams. Now, the patterns, the customs, those things we spoke about now, they are first thought of in the brain. They are formed in the brain of the first man, for example, or whoever thinks of it. But this thinking does not come from the right part. It comes from the left part. Patterns of this world, customs of this world, comes from the thing that operates in this world. And what is that? That's the left brain. It operates in this world. So, the thoughts that create customs is born in the left brain of any human. Now, as we learned that the left brain was awakened when Eve and Adam ate of the fruit, and the physical world became visible to man. At the same time, once the physical world became visible, the right brain became subconscious, and access to the heavenlies became impossible for a human, except if the left brain is asleep or not functioning. So Satan needed to establish patterns in this world. And so he needed to use his children, who he would speak to use their left brain to create and generate certain patterns that people around the world must follow. So he gave the left brain people, he fed it from the time they were in school. He gave them an education. He wanted to promote the idea that the more fed the left brain is, the more intelligent a person would be, and the higher up the platform of this world they would rise. So you'll get scientists and doctors and lawyers and politicians and strategists and all these guys. The devil will use that system, that pattern he created now, to make the world look like it's dependent, and its success is dependent on the left brain development. So he started using these same children of his, the dark ones, to start using the same people to create and generate patterns. And this is what God refers to as the patterns of this world. Now, we read in the in the Acts of Paul and Thecla, blessed are they that for love of God have departed, separated themselves from the fashion of this world. This is not clothes fashion. This is fashion meaning pattern of this world. For they shall judge angels and so forth. Now, in Romans chapter 2 verse 12, the New International Version says it very well. When I was in Bible school years ago, I was a teenager, just past that. This scripture we had to by heart for some reason. But anyway, it benefits me. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then, that's a prerequisite, you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. The New Living Translation says it like this: don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you. Now, Isaiah in the Old Testament, he refers something in the same lines, and this is what he says: for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways, your customs, your patterns, my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, my thoughts than your thoughts. So, we need to derive this from that statement, or those statements. This is what we derive. As long as you are inside of a pattern of this world, created by a man led by Satan, then you won't be able to know what God's will is, what God's plan is. You won't know why He does what He does. Let us briefly look at this little video clip I found that may sort of explain how the worldly pattern has been established. Let's watch this.
So the programs that you get for the first 7 years are not yours. They came from other people, and they pass that on to you. But the problem is, it's not just the previous generation, the generation before, the generation before, so we pass down through the family. Here's the problem, big time. Science has found that 95% of our life, we're thinking. When the conscious mind is thinking, it's not paying attention. When the conscious mind is not paying attention, the subconscious program is the default. Well, if you understand that, then it says only 5% of the time you're running your life with your creative mind, the wishes and the desires and what you want. 5%, 95% of your life is coming from the program. Yeah, but the program is not your wishes and desires, it's other people's behavior. 95% of the day you are playing programs that psychologists tell us are limiting, disempowering, self-sabotaging. All of us, every one of us, every day, plays programs that we don't see, and they're not ours. All we see is the result. And we go, oh my goodness, this is not what I wanted. Yeah, but this is what you created.
Now, what this video is trying to tell us is this, that we think in this world with the left brain. We negotiate ourselves through problems and whatever with the left brain. Now, let's look at when you drive a car, for example. Once you start learning to drive a car, you learn with your left brain, because it is involved in the world. Now, how to change gears, when to press your clutch and so forth. But after you learn it for a long time, whatever your left brain is now used to doing, it gets transferred to the right brain. It becomes a default. Your right brain now absorbs the information. It gets locked in there about the pattern the left brain followed. So now when you drive a car after many years, you will notice that you don't have to really look at gears anymore. You don't even listen to the engine, you just know automatically the clutch goes in and so forth, and it just is an automatic reaction. You are driving on autopilot, in other words. That's because your right brain has now absorbed this subconsciously. And while you're driving, your mind is on something else. While you're driving, you're talking to whoever is next to you. And lots of times you reach your destination, you don't even know what cars were in front of you and how you got where you were going. That's because the left brain was busy, so the right brain took over. That's the subconscious brain, that you can do something without realizing that you've done it. So whatever the left brain does, it gets programmed as default setting in the right side of the brain. So most of the time, your right brain is taught, listen to this carefully, what your left brain pattern is used to. The left brain makes you follow a pattern which gets transferred to the right side of the brain by default. And so the left brain always influences, it's like the boss. And we learned a couple of weeks ago when we were speaking about this, it's like a 5-story building, which is the right side, is being controlled by a little hut the left side. That's how much of influence that left side has. Yet because you give it so much of power to control the part that is really limitless. So by following patterns of this world, you restrict the right side from being creative, from being intuitive. You know, when you among people and there's a feeling you have about somebody, about something that might be wrong with a certain situation, and you try to tell somebody, they'll try to reason the left brain reasoning. You have to show them why you think this is wrong, and sometimes you cannot put it into words because left brain people will shut you down. They want to see it to believe it. But right brain people, when you have this instinct about something, it's normally when you're so dominant with your left side, with this worldly side, then the right brain doesn't give you intuition. Your sixth sense is shut off. Your pineal gland has no access. So you normally, this left brain people, they normally quieten the right side down. That's why scientists who don't believe in God, they cripple the right brain so much that it is no longer relevant. It doesn't give them anything. That's why they can say God does not exist. So once the devil has the world, taught the world to think in a certain way, to use the left brain for their own advantage, then he can control the pattern. He can use this pattern that you follow to influence you. I'm going to show you how powerful this is. By the time we finish, you'll understand it. Now let's just have a quick look at this little clip so that you can have an idea of how once you are in tune with the worldly pattern, once you follow their pattern, they can easily influence you. You're going to watch a little video clip of something that is 512 hertz that's trying to influence something that's 440 hertz, and it doesn't work, the tuning fork. But once you have the same tuning fork 440 on the left, it will affect the thing that's on the right because they're on the same vibrational frequency. Let's watch. So if you are inside of this pattern, they will be able to control and move you in the direction they want you. Now, many of these people have been susceptible to listening to their voices, especially in this big thing that happened in 2020, when they wanted to poke things inside of people. The people went with the pattern. That's the pattern you must follow. And so they followed the pattern because it's easy. They are on the same frequency. That's why you'll see intelligent people, people who are highly educated. You know, they've got degrees and doctors and lawyers. They're all left brainers now. They received the signal. The ball was able to move because they're vibrating in the pattern of this world. That's why people whom you might refer to as simpletons, they are the ones who had intuition. Some people actually knew that this poke is going to harm them without knowing why. So let me remind you, he wants you to follow the pattern without thinking. That's what your left brain will do. Follow the pattern, and there must be no thought now because you are just going along with it. That's the idea. Now, he doesn't want you to stop and think. He doesn't want you to not follow the pattern. So there's several things that he does so that your left brain doesn't wake up. It doesn't listen to the right side when the right side says something. Now let me demonstrate to you in a few ways what the devil does to rob you from thinking. He doesn't want you to think about it. He wants you to go with the flow. Because he's established a pattern. He resonates with those kind of people and he doesn't want those people to ever stop. So what does he do? Let's first look at what Tekla's mother did before I go further. Tekla's mother told the governor, we need to burn this girl, even though she's my daughter, we need to burn this girl in front of the public. So when other girls want to follow the pattern that she is setting, the girls must all follow our pattern, the way we get things done. If they break from this pattern, if they just stop to think for a moment, and that's what Tekla did, Paul made her think, if I get married at 13, I won't be free. I'll have to listen to whatever my husband says. I can't even evangelize. This is what I want to do. I want to go out. I want to preach the gospel. I won't be able to do that. I won't be able to work for the Lord freely. I have to stay in the house, look after the children. Whatever my husband says goes. If he tells me to shut up, I have to shut up. If he tells me you cannot serve Jesus while you're married to me, I have to listen to him. So for those reasons, Tekla stopped to think. The devil did not want her to think. So he used Tekla's own mother to threaten her and all the other girls that want to stop and think also. And so the devil uses threats. And when you look, when someone like us, for example, when we broke ranks, when we stopped following the pattern of behavior of the left brainers during the poke time, they ridiculed us, they swore at us, because they want people, they pulled some doctors' licenses away, because they want to threaten the other doctors, you don't break from this pattern. They want to tell the people, you don't break from this pattern. Why? Because what we'll do to you is we'll remove you from society. You won't be able to enter certain shops. You won't be able to take certain flights. You won't be able to go to work. So that threat forces people to follow the pattern. Can you see how the devil works? He uses threat so that you follow the customs and patterns of this world. Do you know they did that to our Lord as well? Now the Pharisees were studious people. They were academics. They could read, they could write, they knew the Torah. They stood and professed that they knew the law like the back of their hand. And as soon as Jesus started to break custom, where he didn't wash his hands, and his disciples didn't wash their hands, and they started to eat. As soon as he broke that custom, they came down on him like a ton of bricks. They called him Beelzebub. They called him a liar. They called him a blasphemer. They mocked him. They made fun of him. Why? Because they wanted to discourage anyone else from breaking away from their pattern of behavior. The pattern of their world must be followed. As soon as Jesus healed on the Sabbath, they came after him. They mocked him. They belittled him. Some of them said, isn't this guy a mere carpenter's son? What makes him say he is the king of the Jews? When they were killing him, they slapped him. They mocked him. They wanted everybody else who thought they could be Christian followers or followers of Christ to see what happened to him, but it didn't work. Thousands came to him after that. In fact, millions. Now it's billions that came to him. So the pattern Jesus broke. And this is what I want to tell you, is that when you see a pattern, You have to think about this pattern. You cannot just follow the pattern, and the devil wouldn't want you to think. He'll use different methods of discouraging you from thinking. Listen to how this pattern works. You see, the devil gives people money. He puts them on platforms, of very powerful platforms. And he gives them, let's say in one avenue, he gives them a budget for advertising. And so, when people advertise, they create brands. And these brands become a status symbol for people. That's the pattern. So when people around the world watch a brand being advertised, worn by sportsmen, worn by pop stars, the drinks that are drunk by pop stars and athletes and world leaders and whatever, it creates an aura about the product. And it wants people to, because you see, people want power. They want recognition. They want to be admired. They want to be respected. And so, this status symbol gives people that see them an impression that they are somebody. If you're wearing a name brand thing, then in the eyes of everybody, you are a somebody. And so, you'll find that people, not all people, I'm speaking generally, and I would go so far as to say most people, buy certain cars because it's a status symbol. It's a pattern now that they created through this advertising, that people will be attracted to the brand. Now, let me ask you this. If there was no advertising whatsoever, when you go to a shop, what will you pick up from the shelf to buy? You would buy an ordinary t-shirt because you don't know anything about this polo brand. Because there's nobody told you about it. There's no sports stars wearing it. So you would buy anything. If there's no cars advertised, people will go to what they think just looks nice, not by the brand name. And this is how they influence your youngsters in school. And if you don't follow the pattern of wanting these brands, then you are regarded as an outcast. So your child worries you and you feel bad because you don't want them to be left out or mocked. So you follow the pattern with them, and you follow the trend and the customs with them, and you buy what other children are wearing to make them fit in. That's the pattern of this world. You don't teach them that we need to break this pattern. We need to stop and think for a moment that the same thing that comes from China, that has no name on it, is of equal value to the thing that they put a label on it, because the advertising is paying for the label. And let me tell you, the same products that cost 10 times more with a label on it comes from the same manufacturer that makes those other shirts. So if a pop star is wearing a certain shoe, this rapper is wearing this shoe, we want that shoe, it becomes expensive. It becomes a status symbol. And once the devil vibrates with that frequency and people get into that frequency, they are now in a pattern. And those who are in the pattern of this world will never know God's will. When you consume something, when you buy something, when you wear something, when you drive something, it must be because you are comfortable. Not because it says something for somebody else to see about you. I hope you're getting this. So the pattern of this world, the devil don't want you to stop and think. See, what I'm doing to you now is I'm making you think. But he doesn't want that. Some people say, I'm driving this and I'm wearing that. Now, what he's trying to say? What he's trying to say? He does not want you to think. I too wear brand things, but not for the reasons to make people admire me. Because it's comfortable, the material is nice. But sometimes I wear things that are cheap, 20 rands. Well, they're not 20 rands now, but I started off like that. And if something looks nice, I will get, it's got nothing to do with the advertising or the brands. Do you know Christianity was a pattern as well, just like the Pharisees did? The pattern, let's put it, let me show you this. Christianity was started, right? And then in the left brain of somebody, they said, let's make a building now, we'll all come together. So they come and they start this ritual now. Let's do this first, then that first, we'll sing, then we'll read, then we'll do announcements, then we'll clap, and then we'll listen to the sermon, that's a pattern. Albeit not of this world, but it's a pattern. But now, then they started to say, let's have service on Sunday, but we have to have something on Monday. We can't just leave people to float around. No, we'll have something Monday. Then we'll have Tuesday midweek, we call it meeting. Then we'll have Wednesday, we'll call it Bible studies. Then Thursday, we'll go to people's houses and have cottage meetings. Then Friday, we'll have intercession meeting. Saturday, we'll reserve for the youth. Sunday, while the main service is on, we'll have a church for the children, we'll call it Sunday school. Now, that pattern is being followed. Here's the thing now. You ask yourself, when a pattern is followed, when a pattern is in place, you ask yourself, of what benefit is this pattern? Does this custom, does it benefit me in any way whatsoever? And some people, if they're really honest, if they stop to think now, you see, some people won't want to think because they're so engrossed in whatever they're doing. But if you stop, if you're smart enough to stop and think, you'll think, wait, I used to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I never had time for my family. You see, that's what it does, pulls away that time. I didn't have time, but I have to do this and do that. And then I get pulled in to do this in the church and to do that for what? So people can come together. And there's nothing wrong with coming together. We can all come together. But look at this time. And the bottom line is, spiritually, what I learned sitting for so many years, going so many times a week, it hasn't improved my life, maybe a little bit. But compared to the number of times that I went, in fact, some people went backwards in their life. This custom does not benefit. There's certain custom. Now when we have, even a long time ago, I used to only have one service a week, Sunday. Because I wasn't interested in people's offering on a midweek. That's why most people have, be me honest with you. Most pastors have this service. That's why they're so keen to open. Because they wanted that Tuesday offering, that Wednesday offering. They needed that. So it's not about anything else. Trust me, I'm telling you. I'm long in the game now. I'm going 30 years. I understand how these things work. I've been inside of them. I know how they think. So when I decided, hey, this midweek is just people are not benefiting. Because I give them solid food on Sunday. They need to digest it in the week. They need to have family time. They need to do things for themselves. So I gave them, so for a very long time, must be 15 years now, we don't have a midweek service. And the other people will ask, yeah, pastor, don't have midweek service. Don't have. You don't have Sunday school. Don't have intercession. All those questions, because what? You can't break tradition. Now, church is closed. Everything is okay, everything is open. Why your pastor not opening? And when they tell you that in public when you go, some of you are like nuts. You feel embarrassed. Because that's what they tried to do with Jesus. And then you ask them, you're following a custom. I got a new custom now. But you see, you cannot reason with people. The bottom line is, you got to have a thinking mind. The customs are for people with no thinking mind. They go automated mode. They go and sit down in the church. Some of them fast asleep. Some of them have no idea what they heard. Soon as the church service is finished, they run to the altar for prayer. That's why they came. And so most people, and I say this reservedly, being a pastor for so many years, most people, when they sit, they don't absorb everything. And even if the pastor gives them good material, they still don't absorb everything. So when it comes to thinking about custom and pattern, I need you to be a thinking being. Because now, whatever the left brainers were thinking church-wise, it's gone to the right brain. Now they automated mode. They just go, wake up Sunday morning, or bath, they're gone. Come back, this is what they do. And so it's an automated mode now. Without thinking, they just go with the flow. Now, because you think with your brain, you know, I spoke to you a few weeks ago and I told you I'll get back to talking about what they call cholesterol. And I told you about the table salt, how it has glass in it. And that glass, when you swallow it, it goes into your veins. And it makes cuts in your veins, even in your eyes, in parts of your brain, makes slight cuts. Now what heals the cuts after these things is cholesterol. And when cholesterol gathers around there to bring healing, your veins get slightly clogged, and then it causes what the doctors are saying, stroke. And I heard one man say this, but one of the scientists, and he says, it's like when you see a fire truck by a fire, when a fire takes place, you see a fire truck there, and you say to yourself, every time I see a fire truck. So the fires must be caused by the fire truck. It makes no sense. Now this is what, when people see cholesterol, they think cholesterol is the reason why you got high blood pressure. Now I taught you these things, but I want to teach you something about cholesterol in particular. But it's better if I just show you a few videos, because these people explain it so well. It's going to take some time, but it will be pertinent and very informative for you to hear this all, so that going forward, you know how to protect yourself. Let's just watch these few clips.
Cholesterol does not cause heart disease. There's a lot of really misinformation about cholesterol. So with cholesterol, 80% of the cholesterol that the liver makes is made from glucose. And 20% of the cholesterol that the body makes is made from fat. Now there are two types of cholesterol, two main types. There's high density lipoprotein called HDL, and LDL is the low density lipoprotein. They're like the maintenance team on the blood vessels in the body. And HDL's role is to carry away excess cholesterol, so it's called the carrier. Whereas LDL, it's the repairer and the rebuilder.
Your brain is made from cholesterol. A statin drug is a cholesterol lowering drug. So if you want to have a brain the size of a marble, just keep on taking them. You do not die of too much cholesterol, you die of not enough. And I will say this one more time, you do not die of too much cholesterol. There is no such thing as too much cholesterol. You die only from not enough. In a burn unit in hospitals, we use 20 to 28 hard-boiled eggs a day in a burn victim, because we know only cholesterol builds healthy cells. Every single cell in your system, 87% of the new cell is built from cholesterol. Where does this cholesterol come from? See, where they came up with it, they just made up the number of 250. They just made it up. There's no science, no nothing. They tested a couple of people living in a trailer park from trash that they eat, and kind of like came up with the average is kind of like 250 of combined cholesterol, and made this, that's what everybody should have. It's completely artificially made up. I have patients that have cholesterol of 600, they're the healthiest people, never been sick, and you know where the mist comes from? People take table salt. Table salt is 1/3 glass, 1/3 sand, 1/3 salt. So now the glass in the table salt is cutting the arteries. Now you're bleeding to death internally. Now the cholesterol goes there and stops the bleeding, keeps you alive, saves your life. Now the cholesterol is a bad guy because it narrows, of course, if it clogs an open wound that's bleeding, of course that narrows for a short amount of time the bloodway. And then they say, oh yeah, because it's now narrowed, it's raising your blood pressure. And what's raising your blood pressure is causing the narrowing. It's the cholesterol. Therefore, cholesterol is causing high blood pressure. Wow. Very interesting. So the statin drugs are the most dangerous, useless drugs ever invented. And please remember, your brain is built from cholesterol. 92 to 99% of the brain is built from cholesterol. The brain shrinks first. With every statin drug, you start shrinking your brain. And this is what people need to understand. Just have a couple of bananas on an empty stomach in the morning, and you will see your liver get so much better really, really fast, and works so much better. Just help your body. You don't need to cure it. You don't need to fix it. Just help it. It cures itself. Because my statement, there is no healing force outside the human body.
A study recently came out saying that upon new analysis, a substantial amount of people taking cholesterol-lowering medications are not getting benefit. The study also suggested new guidelines for recommendations for cholesterol-lowering medications. The guidelines clearly stated that cholesterol-lowering medications are not helpful for millions of people who were previously thought to need these drugs to prevent heart disease. Those of us who know that cholesterol is not the cause of heart disease, and that cholesterol-lowering medications have many side effects and have never been shown to prevent heart disease, see this as a good thing, because it means less people will be taking these drugs. But the real takeaway from this study is much deeper. Back in 1984, a medical committee decided that LDL cholesterol was bad. This committee was heavily influenced by the pharmaceutical industry. At first, the committee decided that the ideal LDL levels should be 250 or lower. Over the years, the pharmaceutical industry sponsored the lowering of these guidelines, and today, the recommendation is that our LDL should be 100 or lower. What this means is that we have no idea what ideal cholesterol levels actually are, and there may not be any best level of cholesterol at all. The idea that cholesterol is bad for us came from low-quality associational studies, and the original ideal number of what it should be was pretty much made up. Further, the lowering of what that number should be was not based on any science or data. It was based on the fact that pharmaceutical companies could make more money by selling more drugs if the recommendation was lower.
Bad cholesterol is what makes estrogen and testosterone and aldosterone and cortisol and things like this. That's bad. This is the biggest fraud. I have a I have spent countless hours working on cholesterol. It is all from the scientific literature. None of it says anything about cholesterol being bad. The only bad thing about cholesterol is not having enough. One of the biggest defenses against stroke is cholesterol. Depression is directly related to how much serotonin is in the body. Who controls the amount of serotonin that's manufactured? Cholesterol.
It's a manipulation of statistics. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Your brain cells have something called rafts, specialized areas in the cell membranes that are 50% cholesterol. These rafts are essential for brain cell communication. Without them, your neurons can't talk to each other effectively. Every time we artificially lower cholesterol, we're potentially disrupting this vital communication system.
So this is what doctors are taught when they learn. They don't talk about what we just spoke about now. They taught something else. They must follow a pattern. Now, having prayed about this, because I don't just speak things. I pray, I sense, I research, and then I speak. Because souls depend on what I say. Now, whatever we just heard is the truth. And the doctors have been taught to follow a different pattern. Now, why did they do that? Firstly, let me just go through some of the things we just heard. Cholesterol it controls male and female hormones, testosterone and estrogen. Cholesterol controls what they call the happy hormone, serotonin. It controls serotonin levels. So if you have less or no cholesterol, it's hard for serotonin to be made. So you will probably be sad and depressed and unmotivated. Cholesterol controls the healing inside of the body. It almost makes up, well, as you heard, over 90% of your brain cells. Now, here's something very important about thinking. Your neurons that fire inside you, in the left brain, especially I'm talking about, they communicate with one another because they fire. And when and that comes about by thinking. So when you think, the neurons fire. Now, if your cholesterol is low, your neurons won't be able to communicate with each other, which means that you won't be able to think. And that's why lots of people, all the studies that I've went through, the problem with people with Alzheimer's is that they have very low cholesterol. So the neurons are not firing. They cannot communicate with each other. And all this is done to stop, well, for more than one reason. It makes them rich, it makes you buy medication, it makes you sick, it makes you miserable. You're made in the image of God, so you must be miserable. Here's the thing. It stops you from thinking. You just follow the pattern and don't think. Thinking, reasoning, understanding is so important. And the devil has used different methods of fear, intimidation, mockery, and even health, pharmakia, to destroy your ability to think. So the moment you take statins, drugs, pharmakia, to lower that cholesterol, that important ingredient in your brain, then you will stop thinking. And once you stop thinking, you go on auto mode and follow the pattern. You don't question the pattern. Take the mark, we'll take the mark. Take a poke, we'll take the poke. And so this is the idea. This is so powerful when you lower cholesterol, that when you take like table salt, for example, or even other type of drugs that have statins in them, they got glass in them. This glass, because it travels through your bloodstream, it goes right into your eye vessels. The nerves that go to the eyes, that leave the eyes and send signals. It goes there and it cuts those veins inside. And for one or more reasons, because you don't have cholesterol to go heal those veins, you have internal bleeding, your eyes turn red. Sometimes they say that because your sugar is not under control now, which means there's not enough cholesterol to solve that problem, you get blurred vision. And so the devil has used different mechanisms so that you just don't think. All you must do is a pattern, you follow. Now, we are fashioned, our custom, the world custom, for example, is to pursue wealth, success in the form of wealth. So no other success is seen as success. Just you must be wealthy, you must have a good job, and you must be respectable. That's what we are taught, not even by the school, but also by parents. And you must climb to the top of the mountain. That's the goal. This is the pattern the world will follow. You know, as long as parents have been around, and as well as some of them have done, they will never, that's the pattern they will teach you. But they will never tell you that all that wealth and being on top of that mountain will not bring you joy and happiness. It's for some reason, they just don't stop to think and tell you that. They didn't teach you the value of laughing with friends, genuine friends and family, over the pursuit of luxuries. It's hard for me to imagine that the pattern is so ingrained in them that they saw other people progress and they were, my children must be like that, they must be. But they don't stop to think that that pattern brought those people misery, that the same rich people commit suicide, that they are not happy, they get divorced. No, won't stop and think that. You just go to the top of that mountain, you do your best and you get a good success. And some people whose children are doing well, they're so proud. I got a good job, he's making so much of money now. You never teach them that simplicity, being humble, being happy, being content with the simple things you have is the thing that brings joy. Simplicity, you got nothing to fear losing. You can have all those things, there's nothing wrong with them. But that's not the things that are important. The important things are being genuine, being simple, being down to earth, laughing, joining hands with family, love, compassion. Never taught that. It brings joy and fulfillment. They never taught you giving is a thing that gives you satisfaction. Giving to family in need, giving to friends in need. It doesn't have to be financial, anything, giving them the love, the support. No, they never teach you that. The pattern is you must always fake what you are like in the public. You mustn't be real in the public. Even when that photo comes up on Facebook, it's not real. It's Photoshop now. You must look your best always. You must dress your best. You must chase that idea of perfection. Then people will admire you rather than being simple and real. Most people want to accumulate superficial friendships. I got so many friends on Facebook. I got over 5,000 people and all of them wish me for my birthday. Not genuine, close, warm relationships. That's a pattern. It's a pattern that people follow. The more friends, the more favorable you are. Look at the weddings. You have a wedding, the pattern is women get married, okay, must have a big wedding, must hire this beautiful venue, must have certain color flowers, it looks so nice, and spend so much of money, invite people who don't even visit us, we didn't see for years, family we don't even know existed, we have to invite them, pay for them. When they get the invite, they are asking themselves, do we have to go for this thing? It's such an inconvenience. What a day they chose. But now you have to go and you look bad. So they're all coming and sitting there. Some are miserable just for being there. Many feel obligated. Some of them don't like you. But you call them because they must come and admire what you have. And so they come and you pay for them to come. Now if you stop and think for a moment, these people were not happy for you. The only people that are happy for you is your blood. Some not even that. But your mom and dad. Have a little gathering. Feast, give them whatever you were going to spend on the 20,000 people. Buy the best things and say, come and enjoy with me. At least you guys are happy for me. Not showing people I got 400 people in my family. Those that genuinely love you. Think for a moment. You will save so much. And then go for a honeymoon. The world is an oyster. Maybe not now. But you spend that same money you were going to feed these people that don't like you, you haven't seen for so long. And you go make something memorable that lasts in your memory for years and years to come. Because let me tell you, once the marriage life starts, it's going to not be like how you think it will be. And so just stop for things. So that's why people who are older, like your parents, need to tell you what to do. But no, they too want the status. That's a pattern. Other people, my sister's wedding, daughter got married like this. This is how we must have it. Pattern. So I need you to understand, you need to stop and think The pattern of this world is to lead, to be great. And Jesus said this. He says, if you want to be great in the kingdom, you must learn to serve. He broke the pattern. He washed the disciples' stinky, dirty, dusty feet. He was their leader, and he showed them what it was to lead. To lead is to serve. He broke the pattern. But this world, no, that's beneath me. The world teaches you to be a leader is to do something, to be something totally different. Matthew reminds us when Jesus' words, but he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. We are programmed in this pattern of materialism. Now Jesus, he crushed that pattern, and they didn't like it. Why? Because who was living in them? Demons. They were possessed heavily. Demons didn't like the fact that Jesus was making people stop to think. You must just go with default pattern. There's a pattern, you follow the pattern. So let's just test this before we close. Many of us are grateful to God. We serve God well when we're doing well. And we have nice material things. We follow closely the Bible. We listen carefully to the sermons. We come and sit faithfully. And we get excited. And as soon as things start to be removed from you, your interest in God diminishes. The more you lose, the less interest you have in God. So your materialism is directly related to how well you want to know God, to how close you are to God. And I've noticed over the years that many people pull away when the material things are gone or going. And this is a test of whether you were in the pattern of this world. Because if you were not in the pattern of this world, you wouldn't care either way. But materialism makes, the fact, this is the world makes you think that there's a curse on you when you are not physically blessed. And Christians say that when I have things, then I'm blessed. Blessing has nothing to do with things. So the pattern of this world is, you have things, you're blessed. You don't have things, you're not blessed. That's the pattern of this world. That's a pattern of Christianity. So in your own mind, because I don't have these things that I had anymore, I am not blessed. Not just that, you just don't have this feeling in you anymore to connect with God, to be as enthusiastic to be with Him. And let me tell you this, if this pattern is not broken, God just told us in the first thing we read, you won't know God's will. If the devil has you in this materialism pattern, you won't see it till you see it. That's why I'm asking you to stop and see it. What would you do if little by little God removed? Do you know what Job did? Job was conversing with God through all the troubles he had. So he didn't remove himself from God. He wanted to end his life there. He said, God, kill me. But he didn't lose interest in God, because materialism, yes, it was important for his health and his happiness, but it wasn't as important as his relationship with God. So this is why I'm saying the devil wants you in this pattern of materialism. And many of you that can't live or feel that if I lose these things, just think about, if I lose these things, will my interest in God still remain? And honestly answer that question. And if you answer, I will lose interest, to be honest, in coming to church or in listening to the sermon online, or, I might listen once in a while, but I'm not so keen. I won't be so keen anymore. You know what that tells me? That means that you are already caught up in the pattern of materialism. And so, understanding God's plan on all this, you won't be able to know, according to the scriptures. So, if you are caught up in this pattern, we read in the previous, in Paul and Tekla, that you won't even see the kingdom. And that is a dangerous place to be. So during this fast, stop to think about the patterns you follow. Change it to improve the quality of your life. And I pray for you in Jesus' name. Can I pray with all of you? Every child of God that is listening to me now, Lord, that they will use the intellect you gave them. They will break free from a pattern of behavior. If other men are doing certain things, it doesn't mean I have to get dragged and to do it as well. Father, children whose other children are doing and engaged in certain things, that does not mean I have to do. These are the things, Lord, I ask to be broken in the days of our fasting. That, Lord, they'll separate themselves from the pattern of this world. Give them greatness in your kingdom first. Cover them in your blood, my God, as I pray always. In Jesus' name, amen. All of you around the world, I wish you well in your fast. God bless you. I'll see you again next week.